Since you didn't get your book boner last week, I brought Nora back so that way she could do her Smut Tale.
Hey, guys.
I don't do as good of a job when it comes to reading those quotes from a Smut Tale, so I know you weren't fully erected last week because you had to hear it from my voice. Now, you'll get that full-on rager once you hear it out of Nora's mouth.
I know, because you just don't know, like, the context of what's going on in the book. Oh, bye, Rory. See you later. So you can't really, like, get the emotion. You don't know if it's, like...
I don't know where to hit the right inflections.
No.
I don't know the certain spot to hit.
You gotta get to the right spot, babe.
Yeah, you know what? As a guy, I'm someone that totally misses that spot a lot.
You don't miss it, but you should just, every guy should know where it is.
It's hard to find. There's that thing that people always say, women never have an orgasm because guys don't know where to find it.
I mean, there's not much room down there. Sometimes I wonder, like, why it's so hard for some guys to find it.
I guess health class, they didn't do a good enough job on teaching where it was at.
Maybe they should be teaching that in health class.
They should. I bet you more people would pay attention to that.
They would.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, would.
I like your joke there.
Thanks. I'll be here all episode. Let's hear about this new book that you've been reading. Let's get a spicy quote here from you. Let's go. Bon chicka wah wah.
I read my first fantasy book.
Your first fantasy book. Now, when you say fantasy, are you talking about fantasy as in like whips and chains? And
No.
Oh, no.
I've read plenty of those.
Oh, okay. So different kind of fantasy.
Yeah, not your fantasy. Like fantasy.
I'm not saying that's my fantasy. Listen, I don't want to walk out with bruises.
No, fantasy as in there. Some fantasy books have fairies, which I know they are called something different now. They're not considered fairies anymore. There's a different term for them. Or like magical powers, different realms and kingdoms versus countries.
Like some Dungeons and Dragons type shit.
Yes, basically, fantasy can also be considered like Star Wars. Like
right, yeah.
in space.
Yeah, I would consider that to be in like the same world of Dungeons and Dragons. I feel like this is the same target demo.
Yeah, kind of. So, I have never, or Harry Potter would be considered fantasy. Like I've never been a fantasy reader. I don't like spells or potions or magic.
That's a lie. You like Hocus Pocus. You like Halloween Town. Both of those involve them.
Those are Disney movies.
It doesn't matter. It's still fantasy.
I like Disney fantasy. Let me clarify that.
I think every girl does.
But like, I wouldn't read a Hocus Pocus book, I guess, if it tells you. I watch Hocus Pocus because it's a basic bitch thing to do every fall.
You said it.
Yeah. Well, I am a basic bitch. I'm fully aware of that. But I've never, like, I've tried to read Harry Potter, could never get into it, like, hate Star Wars, Star Trek, Avatar, like, none of that has been my thing. My friend Rachel loves fantasy. She has a really great imagination where she can, like, jump into a fantasy book and just be
She can be in a world of pure imagination.
Literally, yes. Like, even Willy Wonka, I'm not a fan of because of...
Really?
I don't really like things. I don't like a book or a movie if it can't really happen kind of in real life. Now, granted, some of my books with those threesomes doesn't mean I want it to happen to me in real life, but there are people in real life who have threesomes.
You're telling me that someone can't win a chocolate factory?
And have a giant elevator that goes through and have, like, Oompa Loompas and, like...
That's real life.
Oh, it's real life? Okay.
Use your imagination. Did you ever watch Mr. Rogers as a kid?
I remember watching it as a kid, but... I don't really
You don't ever remember him taking his little trolley into the land of make-believe?
No. The only thing I remember about Mr. Rogers is the intro. I don't remember, like, retain any memory of the actual show.
You need a better imagination. See, as a kid, that especially growing up, like my brothers are older, but my brother Matt, he's about a year and a half older than I am. We're at this point where growing up, he didn't want to be surrounded by me at an early age, right? So I had to use my imagination in order to play. So that's why I always...
That's why you're an introvert.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm just good at playing with myself.
I feel like introverts and fantasy kind of can go in hand. I'm very extroverted.
Yeah, that's why I like the WWE. In what other world can someone that's dead be a wrestler? And how can someone come back from being burnt and then finding out that they have a half brother? Like, it's crazy stuff.
It's crazy.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this whole new fantasy book that you're reading.
So I read this fantasy book. It's called the Elementals series, and it's 3 sisters, Waverly, Bloom, and Meadow. They're not, from what I kind of took, is they're not related.
But they're sisters. They were basically adopted by their mother, which is the queen, because they all have something that the queen wants, which is some sort of a power. So their magical powers, I guess, are somewhat beneficial to the queen in some way. And this book is smut-filled?
Not... I would give it on a scale of 1 to 5 on smut. I would give it about a 2.
Okay, so it's not like the 3 sisters are hooking up with each other.
No. And this book was actually recommended to me by your friend Taylor. One of his friends that he went to high school with wrote this, and so
What's her name?
Jessica Kim. She is a debut author. So, and since I'm a reader, Taylor, kind of asked if I would read it and give her a review and, try to recommend it out to people, which for me, not being a fantasy reader, I actually enjoyed this book. I was really nervous, and he's like, hey, can you read a book that my friend wrote? And I was like, sure, send it my way. And then he's like, she's a huge fantasy reader. And I was like, crap.
Totally different than what you read.
Yes, totally different. And I was like, I hope that this book, I can get connected enough to this book to finish it, because I've never been able to finish a fantasy book. So I finished this book. So that says a lot on her right there. But it's the first book of the series, so a lot of it was just kind of like character development and kind of getting you to know what's going on. And these 2 princes were brought into, I guess, their kingdom, and the sisters are trying to figure out why. And then one of the sisters' elements is like fire, and they were out at one of the nightclubs, and the nightclub caught fire. And so now the entire kingdom thinks that she started this fire as a form of treason. When she didn't.
All right, so are we going to get into the smut or what?
Okay, so there's 2.
I'm interested how you could get some smut out of this fantasy book.
Okay, so this first one, there's maybe 2 kind of a smutty scenes, and they're not super, super detailed, which as a debut author, I feel like that takes some time to get into that. So this first one is Taylor's favorite. I walked into my room ready for a shower, but when I opened the door, a certain gentleman was laying on my bed naked with a bow on top of his cock, making me laugh. I have a gift for you, my queen. Leanne smiled up at me, and I immediately felt happiness. Oh, is that so? I do wonder what it is. I purred, crawled towards him in the bed.
Ooh, I wonder if that happened to her in real life. You know how sometimes authors take things that happen in their real life and put it into book form?
So you think this girl just came home from work one day and her significant other was just laying naked there?
Yep. Fully erected with a big old bow on there. You don't think that? I think that's a real possibility.
And you know what? I enjoyed that scene because that's something that could happen. I could come home from a day off of work, and you could be doing that for me.
I could. Maybe I'll write that down as a thing to do.
That's going to be like my 30th birthday present.
Caught me.
Caught you. And then the other thing was, because it's fantasy, one thing I noticed was, you know how people will say, oh God, or oh my God? Well, in fantasy, it's gods.
Because there's multiple gods.
Yes, and it's not capitalized.
Because they're not talking about one specific god. It's not
yes.
a
so
person.
Like that was kind of like something that I just never, because I don't read fantasy. So I was like, at first I was like, wait. And
You know
like,
there are multiple gods though, still in like this world, right? Depending
is that a
on
Catholic thing?
No. Depending on what type of religion that you believe in,
Yeah.
there is a different god. Like the person that you worship is different.
That's true.
Just saying.
That is true.
So it could be real life.
But the other one was, I had taken a picture of the screen of my Kindle to send it to your friend Taylor to let him know that I was like, I had 30 minutes left of this book and I hadn't read that page yet. And and that page happened to be a smut page. So Taylor's like, do you enjoy this page that you're reading? And that one was, oh gods, I moaned. He started off slow, slightly biting my clit, only to kiss it after, making me throw my head back in pleasure. Slowly but gently, he picked up his pace. He was devouring me, and I wanted him to take it all. So,
do a lot of women, see, this is what I'm talking about, real life scenarios. Do they throw in, because I feel like every book that you mention about a woman and the act that the guy is committing on the woman is about getting her vagina eaten out.
yeah.
So I just feel like a lot of women authors are throwing that out there because that's what they want in their life.
Yes.
They want more of that.
Yes.
They want the guy to come back up looking like a Krispy Kreme donut, just all glazed over.
In the words of Taylor Swift, he looks up grinning like a devil.
That's right. Saving some of that stuff for a little bit later that's above the lip.
I mean, there are, I guess it's very similar to porn. So a porn that's probably going to be more focused towards men is going to have a lot more men getting the action. A lot more men getting a blowjob or whatever. They're gonna be that focal point of attention.
I get that.
Where a woman is writing this and a woman's reading this, we don't want to hear about
her getting railed from behind.
No, like I would rather read about a woman having a guy go down on her versus a woman giving a guy a blowjob.
Selfish.
Not saying that there isn't. I mean, there's definitely those scenes, but kind of a running joke, you know, especially like in book talk, which is if you're an avid reader. Yeah, if you're an avid reader, you're kind of on book talk, which is just a lot of book recommendations and all this stuff. But like one of like a really fun trend of a video is it'll be like my favorite men, and it'll say ... written by women. Because no matter whether it's a book or a movie, if it's a male character and it's a woman author, like...
Yeah, I get it.
I mean...
I totally get it. I'm just teasing mostly.
I know you are.
I get it. I'm just trying to make conversation out of it, trying to make light of it.
I know. But, I mean, and there's so many, like, comments. Like, there'll be, like, Sarah Kate's probably one of... Sarah Kate and Tessa Bailey, they're probably one of my two smuts, and they will... they'll have comments, like, on their TikToks, and they'll be like... I've loved your books. My husband started reading your books. Thank you so much. And they're like, for educating him. You know, there's been a lot of women who have been like, my husband started reading, you know, smut books and.
Should be more pictures in there. If there were pictures in there, then guys would read it. Men are visual. I told you that before. Men are visual. If you put a little picture in there every once in a while, you know how like sometimes when there is a celebrity that writes a biography and they'll include some of the pictures of, you know, what they're talking about in their book.
Yeah, Tom Segura did.
I just feel like every once in a while, insert a picture of the act that they're committing.
I mean, Tessa Bailey draws stick figures when she autographs the book.
Okay.
She picks a scene and she'll draw a stick figure out of that.
Get an illustrator on that. The reason why Dr. Seuss was so successful was because of all these big over-the-top characters that he created. So if you're creating these big over-the-top
you can't just imagine it as you're reading it?
No, I told you. I'm visual. I am visual. It's always the way that I've learned. The reason why that I was better in math than I was in like reading, for instance, in school, is because math, you could see everything up on the board. It all made sense. Seeing something and having to process it that's on paper and getting my dumb brain to remember it, very hard to do.
I mean, I guess like the scene in Give Me More, where they had a food fight in the kitchen, and then it ended up being both penises inside of her. That was kind of a fun one to imagine.
And that's not realistic. Only in porn. Wouldn't really happen in real life. That's fantasy.
You don't think that there's a couple? You don't think there's a throuple out there that?
I'm sure there is, but just the odds of that being, like, I know it's a thing, but it's a very small minority.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just saying. So to me, it's kind of more of a fantasy than anything else.
Yeah. The book I'm reading now is Two Girls Who Go...
Two Girls, One Cup?
No.
Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh, man. Peak.
I wasn't allowed to.
That was.
Were you allowed to?
Oh, every guy that's my age has seen Two Girls, One Cup.
Okay.
Every single one.
So is Meghan Trainor.
I know. That's what made me think of it. When you said two girls, it made me think of the TikTok that you sent me of Two Girls, One Cup with Meghan Trainor. She didn't do Two Girls, One Cup. Let's clarify that.
No, she just grew up watching. That was her childhood nostalgia that she grew up watching. No, but the book I'm reading now is two American females take a job in Scotland to run a coffee shop for 6 months while the owners go away on vacation. And one of the girls runs into like the town handyman, who's kind of this. So
is this a Smut Tale? This one that you're reading, this current one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's save this for next week. We can't do more than one book.
Well, I was just gonna explain the books that way people knew what they were looking forward to.
One time.
Be careful with those sound effects over there. Okay. Well, I'm going to go pick up our pizza.
All right. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
Welcome to the nerd world.
Thank you. Perfect segue right there from my wife. I'm officially a nerd. You're probably like, what the hell do you mean you're officially a nerd? Yes, I'm officially a nerd. I got a library card. The only people I knew growing up that had a library card were nerds. Do you think I was going to be caught dead having a library card as a kid? No. Being a nerd was one of my biggest fears as a kid. And now I'm old, and guess what? I would consider myself to be a nerd. Because I still watch the WWE. That's why I'm saying that I'm still a nerd. The real reason why I needed a library card was I had to go print some stuff out. Nora and I, like the millennials we are, we do not own a printer. The only time that you print stuff is at work, or you have someone else print it off for you. You don't own a damn printer. It's the dumbest thing ever. Well, I wasn't at the office the last couple of days, so I wasn't going to print anything there. And then Nora comes to tell me, she was like, I'm actually glad that we needed to print some stuff off because I needed you to create a library, like sign up for a library card anyway. One of my friends, their local library doesn't have Libby, which is like the ebook version of a library. They don't have it, so I was going to make you one so that way my friend could use your Libby account. Oh, okay. So all of a sudden, when the city of Louisville's looking at all the books that I'm reading, it's going to be smut. They'll be like, what the hell is this guy reading? He came in here to print stuff off And now he's reading all of these books. That's what he's reading right now. Yup. It's exactly what I'm reading, City of Louisville. Don't judge too hardcore. When I went to go pick up my library card, I'm like, when's the last time I stepped foot in one of these? Had to go back to like elementary school. Probably, no, a public library. Let's change that. A public library, not the one at your school, not the one at your college that you went to. I'm talking about a true full-on public library. The last time I went was probably in elementary school because my mom would sign us up for a summer reading camp. Thrilling, right? The library wasn't too far from the house. My oldest brother would walk my brother Matt and I over there, and we would read a few books. And then we would get like a little, it almost looked like a report card that you would get. And it would have all the different books that you read on there. And I always told my mom, I feel like a nerd because I'm reading in the summer. You're not supposed to read in the summer. You remember that. The last thing that you wanted to do in the summer was anything educational. But my mom was trying to force it. And then we grew up a little bit and we're like, no, we're not going to the library anymore. We're not doing it. This is the first time I think I've had a library card. At that time, when there was that summer reading camp, I believe if you were under the age of 12, you didn't need one. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. So this very well could be the first one I've ever had. And it's at the age of 31. I don't want to go back inside the library. I went in there today, and I felt like I was being judged by the librarians. They probably saw me walk through the door and like, when's the last time this duffel bag has been inside one of these? He doesn't like books. He just needs to print stuff off. His wife may read. That's what they were probably thinking. Either his wife needs him to go and pick up a book, or he's just legit going to come in here when he needs to print stuff off. You're right. It's going to be just when I need to print stuff off. But you know what? According to my Libby account, you're going to be thinking that I'm reading a whole bunch of books. Maybe every once in a great while, I'll go in there and rent a book. Maybe. I don't know what type of genre of book I would read. Telling you, it's not going to be fantasy. Maybe some sort of fiction. I like reading biographies and autobiographies. Love those. I do love a good war book, though, too. That's where the history side of me really comes in. Reading about war. Interesting. But I don't want to get too deep into it. There's that joke on TikTok where after 30, you have to do one of two things. You either have to get really into World War history, or you have to become someone that smokes meat. Listen, I don't have a smoker. I do have a library card, and I can read a lot about World War II, a lot about World War I, and all of the different wars that have been out there, but I'm not going to do it. I'm taking everything that I can inside of my body to not read a war book after the age of 30, even though it does seem appealing to me. I don't want to become that guy. I don't want to become a bigger nerd after all of this. Getting a library card. Never thought that day would come. I'm serious about that. Never thought that day would come. Oh, man. I had to switch up headphones because my ears get really warm whenever I record in actual headphones. And when Nora's on the podcast, the headphones that I like to wear, the earbuds that I like to wear, the cord's not long enough. So I have to wear a regular pair of headphones. Now I got my earbuds in, And I'm Gucci. I'm good to go. I am really good to go. You know who's not really good to go when it comes to raising kids? Tom Brady is starting to question a little bit how he's raising his kids. And you're probably like, Tom Brady, out of all people, what the hell is he worried about raising his kids? He's actually worried about building a false sense of reality for his children. There was a report on this because Tom has a personal chef, they have a nanny, they have people that go shopping for them. A lot of things that his kids are used to are not real life issues. All the daily tasks that Tom and Giselle have, they don't do. They don't cook, they don't clean. They don't do any of that stuff. And Tom Brady feels bad that he's showing this to his family. Now, on the other hand, he's probably really excited that he's able to provide a lifestyle where his kids will never have to worry about anything again. And you know what? Honestly, they won't have to worry about going shopping or going to clean toilets or anything like that. They won't have to know that. Because of the amount of money that their parents made in their lifetime, Giselle and Tom have made enough money where that's going to be handed down not only for their generation, but if their kids are not dumb, it's going to go to their kids' So just be smart about it, and you won't be creating a false reality for your children. Although I would kind of get that, where you would want to make sure your kids know how to earn a dollar and know how much those things that you're hiring out for cost. Like, if you want to maintain this lifestyle, these are the things that you have to do. This is how much money you have to make in order to be able to afford all these nice things. I wish I lived in that alternate reality. You know, Nora was talking about fantasy life. Like, to me, the lifestyle that the rich and the famous live, especially Tom Brady and Giselle, they don't have to worry about anything ever. That's a fantasy to me. Fantasy in real life. But to me, that almost seems more unattainable than actually hooking up with an alien in outer space. Like, to me, that is more of a realization than becoming a billionaire. Because there's going to be a day where there's some aliens that abduct you. You get taken up into space and you're having alien children. Boom. Blew your mind on that, didn't I? Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Maybe not in our lifetime, but in someone's lifetime, it's probably going to happen because Earth won't be around that long. I mean, it's going to be around for a long time, but at a certain point, it's going to boom, explode. That was fun. That was a good episode on the podcast. We heard a lot about Smut Tales, fantasy books. Got to talk to you about how I'm a nerd now. All is good in the world. You have a good rest of your week. Don't party too hard this weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday here on The Luke Kelly Show.